It is a routine that many of you know well and likely practice religiously. You wake up, put on your comfortable shoes, and head out for your daily walk. For decades, the medical community, myself included, has praised walking as the gold standard of exercise for older adults. It is low impact, accessible, and excellent for cardiovascular health. However, as we look deeper into the physiology of aging, specifically regarding muscle atrophy and fall prevention, we are finding that walking, while necessary, is fundamentally insufficient for preserving independence. There is a physiological gap between simply moving and staying strong, and that gap is where frailty begins. One of the most concerning misconceptions I encounter in my practice is the belief that walking alone maintains muscle mass. This is anatomically incorrect. Electromyography studies, which measure the electrical activity in muscles, have shown us something quite startling about the gluteus maximus, the largest muscle in the human body. During a standard walk on flat ground, this powerful muscle is activated to only about 32% of its maximum capacity. This means that for the majority of your daily activity, nearly 2/3 of your primary stabilizer muscle remains dormant. Over time, this leads to a condition we often refer to as gluteal amnesia. Your brain effectively forgets how to recruit these muscles because they are rarely challenged beyond that low threshold. The result is not just a loss of strength, but a loss of the protective scaffolding that keeps your pelvis aligned and your balance secure. Imagine a peaceful morning in the park. You see countless seniors walking, believing they have checked the ultimate box for their health. While walking is fantastic for cardiovascular clarity, relying on it exclusively is a dangerous anti-aging myth. The reality is that walking primarily engages slow-twitch fibers. However, after age 30, we rapidly lose type 2 fast-twitch muscle fibers, the very fibers responsible for reaction time and preventing falls. Without targeted resistance, we develop gluteal amnesia, where the glutes go dormant, forcing the lower back to take over. This leads to the dreaded senior shuffle, a gait characterized by short, tentative steps rather than strong, propulsive strides. To reclaim your stride, we must intervene with specific mechanics. It starts with multi-level step-ups, generating vertical force to stimulate bone density. We pair this with glute kickbacks and bridges. These aren't vanity exercises, they are structural necessities to pull the shoulders back, open the hips, and erase years of hunching, effectively eliminating chronic lower back pain. But we don't just move forward, life happens sideways. This is why seated band abductions are non-negotiable to prevent lateral falls. Then we arrive at the king of independence exercises, the modified split squat. By mastering this, you ensure you retain the ability to stand up from the ground unassisted, a critical marker of longevity. So, how do we combine this without overwhelming your schedule? Adopt the walking sandwich strategy using the 3+2 rule. Aim for 3 days of brisk walking and 2 days of strength training. By adding these structural pillars to your daily steps, you turn a simple walk into a comprehensive anti-aging protocol. Let's dive beneath the surface. You might be walking 10,000 steps a day, feeling proud, yet still finding it harder to get up from a low sofa. Why? Because walking primarily targets type 1 slow-twitch fibers. These are your endurance engines, great for distance but poor for power. The real culprit of aging isn't general weakness, it's the specific atrophy of type 2 fast-twitch fibers. These are your emergency brakes and power boosters. They are the fibers responsible for catching your balance when you trip or lifting a heavy suitcase. Science tells us we lose these type 2 fibers at a staggering rate compared to type 1. It's a use it or lose it scenario on steroids. When we neglect explosive movements, our body simply dissolves this expensive tissue to save energy. This leads to what geriatric specialists call the frailty threshold. It's not about looking like a bodybuilder, it's about having the reactive speed to stop a fall before it becomes a hip fracture. We need to shift focus from just moving to moving with intent and power. Now, let's talk about the silent epidemic affecting nearly everyone in modern society, glute amnesia. It sounds funny, but Dr. Stuart McGill, a spine specialist, coined this term for a serious condition. Because we spend hours sitting, at meals, in cars, watching TV, our hip flexors tighten and our glutes literally go to sleep. Your brain eventually forgets how to properly fire the gluteus maximus, the largest muscle in the human body. When your glutes forget their job, they don't just take a vacation, they force other muscles to work overtime. This is the tragic domino effect. Your lower back and hamstrings, which are not designed for heavy lifting, try to compensate for the sleeping giant. The result? Chronic lower back pain, knee strain, and that characteristic, hunched posture. You aren't necessarily injured, your body has just forgotten its proper mechanical patterns. The good news is that this amnesia is reversible. We are not fighting a losing battle against time, but rather re-establishing a lost connection. By performing specific, targeted exercises, not just walking, we can send a wake-up call to these dormant type 2 fibers. It is about rewiring the nervous system to trust the glutes again. Once we reactivate this power source, you will find that carrying groceries, climbing stairs, and playing with grandchildren becomes effortless again. The power remains within you, it just needs a spark. Let's take a walk to your local park. Sit on a bench and just listen. If you close your eyes, you can often tell the age of a walker just by the sound of their footsteps. There is the crisp, rhythmic clack-clack of the youth, and then there is the soft, scraping shoo-shoo that we call the senior shuffle. It's not just a habit, it is a physical shrinking. When we age, our natural instinct is to protect ourselves. We fear falling, so subconsciously, we shorten our stride. We stop lifting our feet and start sliding them. But here is the paradox, by trying to play it safe, we actually increase our risk of tripping over uneven pavement. This shuffling gait is a symptom of what I call frozen hips. Years of sitting have tightened our hip flexors, pulling our posture forward, while our glutes, the engine of our walk, have gone dormant. Instead of driving our body forward with power, we are merely catching ourselves from falling forward. This limits our range of motion and creates a vicious cycle where weak muscles lead to a smaller stride, and a smaller stride leads to even weaker muscles. To break this cycle, we don't just need to walk more, we need to change how we walk. We need to transition from passive movement to active walking. Active walking begins with a conscious mental shift. It requires you to be mindful of every step until it becomes second nature again. The golden rule is, heel strike, toe off. When your foot lands, it shouldn't land flat. You want your heel to make distinct contact with the ground first. Then, as you roll through the foot, engage your toes. Imagine you are trying to squeeze a lemon or push the ground away behind you. This toe-off is crucial because it engages the glutes and propels you forward, rather than just dragging the leg along. Next, look at your posture. The senior shuffle usually comes with a downward gaze, watching the feet. In active walking, we lift the chin. Imagine a string pulling the crown of your head toward the sky. When you look up, your hips open up. Now, add the arms. Your arms act as the metronome for your legs. If your arms hang limp, your legs will shuffle. If you pump your arms with a slight bend at the elbow, your legs will instinctively match that rhythm and power. You aren't just walking, you are marching with purpose. This isn't about speed walking or racing, it is about reclaiming your kinetic chain. When you practice active walking, you are signaling to your body that you are stable, strong, and capable. You will feel a difference in your lower back as the pressure lifts, and you will feel the burn in your calves and hamstrings, a good sign that the right muscles are finally working. So, the next time you go out, don't just shuffle through the scenery. Strike the ground, push off the world, and walk like you own the path ahead. Welcome to Chapter 4, where we begin to fight back against gravity. We often design our homes to be as flat as possible as we age, removing obstacles to prevent falls. However, by avoiding vertical challenges, we inadvertently accelerate the loss of our vertical strength. This brings us to Technique 1, the multi-level step-up. This is not merely an exercise, it is a fundamental reclamation of vertical power. To understand why this is vital, we must look at the science of our skeleton. Bones are not dead stone, they are living tissue that obeys Wolff's law. This law states that bone density only increases in response to the stress placed upon it. Walking on flat ground provides insufficient impact to stimulate new growth. We need the axial loading, the vertical compression, that comes from lifting our body weight against gravity. This triggers the osteoblasts, the cells that build bone. But how do we start without risking injury? We use the multi-level approach. We do not begin with a steep staircase. We begin with something as small as a thick book or a 2-inch platform. The goal of level 1 is not muscle exhaustion, but neuromuscular re-education. We are teaching the brain to shift weight onto one leg and lift the body without panic. It is about building confidence before absolute intensity. Now, let's discuss the mechanics, because most people do this wrong. The common mistake is pushing off with the toes, which loads the knees. Instead, you must lean your torso slightly forward and drive strictly through your heel. Imagine you are trying to crush a grape underneath your heel. This heel drive bypasses the knee joint and forces the glutes, the powerhouse of the posterior chain, to do the lifting. It is not a knee exercise, it is a hip exercise. By mastering this simple movement, we translate gym effort into real-world capability. It means you can conquer curbs, get out of low cars, and navigate stairs without gripping the handrail for dear life. The step-up preserves your ability to lift your own mass, which is the true definition of physical independence. While step-ups build vertical power, we must address the silent epidemic caused by our modern chairs, the dormant posterior chain. When we sit for hours, our hip flexors tighten, pulling our pelvis forward, while our glutes, the body's sleeping giants, stretch out and switch off. This imbalance forces the lower back to compensate, leading to that nagging ache and the dreaded hunch. To wake these giants, we turn to Technique 2, the standing glute kickback. This isn't about swinging your leg wildly, it's about precision. Standing tall holding a counter for support, keep your leg straight and extend it backwards solely using your hip muscles. You want to feel a distinct squeeze right at the top of your glutes, ensuring your lower back remains completely still and uninvolved. Think of the kickback as a targeted wake-up call for the gluteus maximus. Many seniors make the mistake of arching their back to get the leg higher, but range of motion is secondary to contraction quality. By locking the ribcage down and focusing on that micro-movement, we re-establish the neural connection between the brain and the backside. Once that connection is firing, we take it to the floor, or a firm mattress, for Technique 3, the glute bridge. If the kickback is the wake-up call, the bridge is the structural reinforcement. Lying on your back with knees bent, you drive through your heels to lift your hips toward the ceiling. The magic of the bridge lies in its dual action. As you lift, you are actively stretching those tight hip flexors while maximally shortening the glutes. This reciprocal inhibition is crucial for correcting kyphosis, or the rounded upper back posture often seen in aging. When the hips open fully, the spine can stack naturally. However, a common pitfall is pushing too high and stressing the lumbar spine. The goal is a straight line from knees to shoulders, creating a solid plank of muscle that protects the vertebrae. By mastering these two movements, you are effectively building a brace for your lower back. The glutes take the load, allowing the spinal erectors to relax. You will notice that when you stand up after these exercises, your chest feels more open, and your gaze is naturally cast forward rather than down at your feet. It is a feeling of liberation, knowing that your own muscles are holding you upright against gravity. With our vertical and posterior strength secured, we are now ready to tackle lateral stability. We have covered vertical power with step-ups and posterior strength with bridges. Now, we must address the invisible danger, lateral instability. Have you ever noticed an older person walking with a slight waddle, swaying side to side with every step? That is not just a quirk of aging, it is the hallmark of a weak gluteus medius. This small but mighty muscle on the side of your hip is your body's shock absorber. When it sleeps, your pelvis drops, leading to knee pain and, more alarmingly, increasing the risk of falling sideways. Statistically, lateral falls are the most devastating because they impact the hip bone directly without the cushion of the main glute muscles. This is where most hip fractures occur this way. Enter the seated band abduction, a deceptively simple movement that acts as an insurance policy for your hips. Unlike standing exercises that require balance, this technique allows you to isolate the muscle safely. Sit on the edge of a sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart. Place a looped resistance band just above your knees. The magic here isn't in how heavy the band is, but in the intention of the movement. Keep your torso tall and dignified, do not lean forward or backward. With your feet acting as anchors, press your knees outward against the tension on the band. As you push your knees apart, pause for a distinct 2-second count at the point of maximum resistance. You should feel a deep, warm engagement in the outer pockets of your hips. This isn't a race. If you bounce the band in and out using momentum, you cheat the muscle. The goal is to wake up those dormant fibers that stabilize you when you stand on one leg during a walk. Slowly bring your knees back to the starting position, resisting the band's pull the entire way. Never let your knees collapse inward, you must control the return phase. Perform 3 sets of 15 repetitions. It might feel easy at first, but by the 3rd set, you should feel a focused burn. This sensation is the feeling of stability being built. By strengthening the gluteus medius, you are effectively tightening the suspension system of your body. The next time you step sideways to let someone pass in a hallway, or when you get out of a car, you won't wobble. You will move with the assurance of a grounded and secure foundation. We often talk about strength in terms of lifting heavy objects, but as we age, true strength is defined by the ability to rise. Imagine the simple act of dropping your reading glasses or needing to check a bottom cabinet. The moment you hesitate to squat down because of a nagging fear that you might not be able to get back up is the moment your world starts to shrink. This is where the modified split squat enters the stage. It is not just a leg workout, it is the absolute king of exercises for preserving your autonomy and defying gravity. While walking is fantastic for your cardiovascular health, it doesn't demand your hips and quads to work through a full range of motion. The split squat targets the hip flexors and the glutes unilaterally, meaning it fixes imbalances between your left and right sides. It forces your stabilizer muscles to wake up and fire. Unlike a standard bilateral squat, the split stance mimics the actual mechanics of stepping forward, lunging, and transitioning weight, directly translating to how we move in the real world. Now, let's remove the intimidation factor. We call it modified because we prioritize safety and control over depth. Start by standing next to a sturdy chair or a kitchen countertop. Place one foot forward and the other back, as if you are taking a long, exaggerated stride. Keep your torso upright and your chest proud. You do not need to touch your knee to the ground. The goal is simply to lower your hip straight down, creating a 90-degree angle at the knee, while holding on to that support for absolute stability. As you lower yourself, you are engaging the eccentric phase, the braking system of your muscles, which is crucial for preventing falls. Then, the magic happens, drive through the heel of your front foot to stand back up. That push. That is the specific motion required to get out of a deep armchair or rise from the floor after playing with grandchildren. It strengthens the exact neural pathways needed to tell your brain, yes, I can get back up. Integrating this movement into your routine completes the puzzle of longevity. It bridges the gap between aerobic fitness and functional power. When you master the modified split squat, you aren't just building muscle, you are building a deep reservoir of confidence. It ensures that your golden years are defined not by what you can no longer do, but by the freedom to move, explore, and live life on your own terms. We often assume that a daily stroll is the ultimate elixir for longevity, but as we've discovered, relying solely on walking leaves a critical gap in our biological armor. While walking nurtures our cardiovascular system, it often fails to engage those fast-twitch type 2 muscle fibers responsible for catching us when we trip. To truly defy aging, we must marry the rhythm of gait with the resistance of gravity. This brings us to the golden ratio of longevity fitness, the 3+2 rule. This strategy is simple yet profound, suggesting 3 days of dedicated aerobic walking combined with 2 days of focused strength training every week. However, life can be hectic, and separating these days isn't always feasible. That is where the walking sandwich formula shines as a time-efficient masterpiece. Imagine your workout like a nutritious sandwich. The top slice of bread is a brisk, 10-minute warm-up walk to lubricate the joints and elevate your heart rate. The filling, the protein that builds you up, consists of our core exercises, the step-ups for vertical power, the glute kickbacks for posture, and the modified split squats for stability. You devote 20 minutes to this strength filling, cycling through these movements with intention. You aren't just going through the motions, you are actively fighting the senior shuffle by demanding your glutes and quads to fire with intensity. This middle section is where the magic of bone density improvement happens, signaling to your skeleton that it needs to remain robust. Finally, you complete the sandwich with the bottom slice of bread, another 10-minute walk, but this time at a gentler pace to cool down and let your heart rate settle. This approach turns a simple walk into a comprehensive metabolic event. By sandwiching high-value strength work between bouts of walking, you maximize calorie burn while ensuring your muscles remain snappy and responsive. It transforms the passive act of moving forward into a dynamic practice of purposeful training. Ultimately, this strategy isn't just about fitness metrics, it is about preserving your autonomy. By adhering to the 3+2 rhythm or the walking sandwich, you are investing in a future where you can navigate stairs without hesitation and play with your grandchildren without fatigue. It is the blueprint for a life lived not just longer, but stronger and with unwavering independence. As the sun sets on our journey, we've explored the depths of human potential. Remember, every challenge you've faced has forged resilience, every step forward, a testament to your spirit. This isn't just an ending, it's a powerful new beginning, a call to embrace the strength within you, to live with purpose and passion. Go forth, illuminate the world with your unique light, for your story is far from over. It's just now truly beginning, full of hope, courage, and endless possibilities.